Picture a massive, frenzied crowd in a Latin American city plaza. Thousands of fans aggressively pushing against barricades, shutting down entire city blocks. They are screaming for musicians whose language they don't even speak. South Korea explicitly treats these pop stars as formal diplomatic envoys. Groups like BTS have been invited to address the United Nations General Assembly 3 separate times and have even been hosted at the White House. Compare that highly calculated global influence to India. We possess a civilization spanning millennia, incredible linguistic diversity, and one of the most prolific domestic film industries on Earth. Yet, on the geopolitical stage, our cultural soft power is a fraction of what it should be. Yes, Indian art occasionally breaks through globally. Movies like RRR win Oscars and pull in millions worldwide. But these moments are rare, isolated spikes. They rely entirely on individual artistic brilliance, rather than a cohesive, state-backed strategy. This chart shows exactly what happens without that strategy. In 2023, India's entire overseas box office generated around $370 million. The following year, South Korea's content exports hit $14 billion. That is a 40-fold difference. India treats its culture as a domestic pastime that occasionally produces an accidental international hit. South Korea engineers its culture like a heavy manufacturing industry, explicitly designed for global export. To understand how South Korea built this machine, we have to look at their darkest moment. In 1997, the Asian financial crisis triggered total economic collapse. Businesses shuttered, unemployment spiked, and the country was forced to beg the International Monetary Fund for a bailout. The situation was so desperate that the government pleaded with its citizens to help save the nation. Around 3.5 million South Koreans voluntarily handed over 227 tons of their private wealth, literally dropping their wedding rings and life savings into collection boxes. Korean leaders had a staggering realization during the crisis. A single Hollywood movie, Jurassic Park, generated more overseas revenue than the export of 1.5 million Hyundai cars. They realized they didn't just have to export physical goods, they could export their identity. The government adopted a ruthless new mandate: export or die. Everything produced had to be packaged, polished, and sold to foreign markets. They backed this up with hard infrastructure. They drastically increased the cultural budget, launched the Korean Creative Content Agency, and heavily subsidized entertainment startups. To feed this machine, agencies built intense training camps, preparing young pop performers with the brutal daily rigor of Olympic athletes. This created a perfectly integrated economic loop. A fan watches a Korean drama, notices the lead actor's skin, and buys Korean cosmetics. Then they want to try the food they saw on screen. Eventually, they book a flight to Seoul. What looks like a magical wave of pop culture is actually a cold, calculated supply chain. Every song, show, and face mask is designed to pull foreign capital directly back into the South Korean economy. India has an entirely different problem. The Ministry of Culture commands an annual budget of over 3,000 crore rupees, yet there is zero cohesive strategy to project that investment onto the global stage. Instead of leaning into our distinct heritage, large parts of our mainstream film industry spend massive budgets producing generic content. They strip away authentic local flavor to copy Western tropes, resulting in mediocre cinema that offers more than compelling to international audiences. When you refuse to export your own culture, others will gladly do it for you. We see ancient practices like Ayurveda dominated internationally by foreign brands with zero actual connection to India. Traditional Indian regional garments suddenly appear on massive Paris runways, completely rebranded and sold as European high fashion. Even our cuisine suffers. Walk down a street in Europe or America, and you'll find that the vast majority of Indian restaurants are operated by people from neighboring countries. There is no standard, no registration, and no quality control protecting the reputation of Indian food. By treating our heritage carelessly, we leave our most valuable intellectual property lying in the open, completely unprotected. The world is taking our raw materials, packaging them, and keeping the profits. India must adopt its own export or die mentality. The domestic market alone cannot sustain our economic growth forever. We have to actively push our identity outward to prevent cultural erasure. The first step is shifting how we view our art. The regional stories coming out of Telugu, Tamil, Marathi, and Malayalam cinema hold massive international potential. They need to be treated as high-value, soft-power intellectual property. We need state-backed incubators that provide these creators with dedicated international distribution pipelines. We should be scaling our regional myths and histories into massive global cinematic universes that audiences everywhere can access. The second step requires an aggressive reclamation of our traditional knowledge. We have to officially codify, certify, and market our own indigenous sciences. Look at China. They took traditional Chinese medicine and formalized it into a respected, structured global discipline with certified practitioners worldwide. India must apply that exact same clinical rigor to yoga and Ayurveda, taking back ownership of the billion-dollar wellness industry. We cannot afford to wait. Right now, opportunists from neighboring countries are actively manipulating digital narratives, training AI models to claim the Indus Valley Civilization and ancient Indian dynasties as their own history. India already possesses every single ingredient required to build a cultural empire. The staggering diversity, the ancient texts, the vibrant food, the multiple languages, and a massive pool of young talent. The only thing missing is a ruthless, organized national vision. If India refuses to purposefully package and export its own culture today, we will inevitably be forced to buy it back from someone else tomorrow.